Alright, we're back. I'm back. This camera up here ran out of camera card and a few days have passed and I haven't actually had a chance to get to this. In fact, you know, what's been stopping me from making videos lately, guys, is that I've got kids in the house and people yelling and shouting, and I hate having that noise in the background, but I'm just going to have to do them. And if you hear people shouting and noises, then, you know, live with it, because otherwise I'm not going to be able to get videos out. So we got to the point where I was about to show you me hooking this up to Ableton and using the USB hub on the back of the audio fuse. Now, I've loaded up an old project of mine. I always use this song for some reason, but anyway, it's there. It's called Retro. This is more of the master one that I used to do one of the final mixes with. And I've got all these clips, and you can see here in the APC Mini, you can see the clips are here. You can scroll across with clips and everything like that, right? Okay, so a couple of things that I've noticed. So you can hear my kids, I apologize. Anyway, a couple of things that I've noticed with this. Look, this is not a desktop replacement. It's got its faults. There's another guy on YouTube who does a lot of reviews on the Surface Pro 4. He's come into problems as well. Anyway, there's a few issues I've got with this setup. Number one is this audio fuse. It just gets extremely hot and I have no idea why. And I've done a bit of research online, and I believe what Arturia is saying is the actual outer body of this thing is the heatsink, which just seems bizarre. They reckon they don't want to put fans on it. Well, I don't know. It's pretty big. Like, I don't know why they need such hot processors in here. I don't understand. But that to me is something that I'm not really happy about with this. It just gets really, really hot. Aside from that, what is good about it is it's got the USB hub on the back. Now, what I've noticed is if you plug the audio fuse into the Surface Pro 4 without power, it really struggles on the Surface because it's powering. I don't think this is a high powered USB port, and I haven't even gone and researched what sort of power this thing is. But from what I can tell, a lot of people who use Surface Pro 4, they use a powered USB hub in this. So that might be an indicator as to why this is not going too well. Also, when you do plug the audio fuse into this purely powered off the USB, it restarts so many times. Eventually it settles itself down, goes into green mode, and it's just, yeah, it's troublesome. But anyway, that's life, I guess. If we used a powered hub, that would be fine. You could plug your iLock, I've got an iLock in the back here, into your powered hub, and then it would, you know, this would work fine. The powered hub has to be powered somehow, so that kind of detracts this from being mobile. So I'm leaning towards this not being the best mobile solution. What I have enjoyed about this is, and I haven't had a really big chance to try this out, is being able to launch clips from here and switching to, you know, session view versus arrangement view. So this is an arrangement view now. Still be able to launch clips from here and have some control over the faders of the channels. So this can do any channel that's in Ableton, and you use the shift left to right to move across which channels you're on. Now when you're in session view in here, you can actually see it moving across, and you can see which one it's using, right? So that's pretty handy. Let's launch a clip and see if we've got some sound. So what you can hear is the audio output of the audio fuse going into my Zoom recorder, which is right there, which is where my microphone is. Okay, let's try this. I'm going to need my old man glasses for this because I can't really see what I'm doing here. Okay, probably what I want to do now is launch a clip from this track, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th track in. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th track in, and it doesn't really matter which one I do, but let's do it on the same row. So you could do your own remix with this, and then if you go into record, you can actually record all this stuff, so you actually don't really need to, if you remember what tracks I want, which is not hard to do. Let's try the next one, which would be this one. You can solo channels. Alright.
Out with the new and in with the old.
Right, that was loud. that probably just blew the speakers.
Out with the new and in with the old.
So in that case, that channel there needs to come down a bit, and you can see me adjusting this pot here. Let's try it again.
Out with the new and in with the old.
It's better.
Out with the new and in with the old.
So you need to audition all of
Out
this.
with the new and in with the old.
You need to audition this and get it all set up to how you want it. But that was flawless. There was absolutely no problem at all in playing back these clips. This is my hybrid. This is kind of like what the new Akai Force is, basically. But what's better is I've got a fully Windows operating system, which means I've got a fully fledged version of Ableton Suite running here. So it's 10 times better, 100 times better than what Akai Force can do. And it's a touchscreen, you know, which is what they're all claiming is so good about the Akai Force. Well, that's a touchscreen. I'm feeling this is probably going to be hard to beat. Now, I went into a computer shop the other day and I had a look at the new Surface models that are out, and yeah, they're a bit pricey. I mean, look, when we're looking at this sort of thing, this thing on the used market is about 300 US to 500 Australian dollars, around there. You can probably get them cheaper. In fairly good nick, I'm talking about. That some of these do get bashed around, and some of these have got bad batteries, and you've got to be careful when you buy used stuff. The brand new stuff, you have to get, I guarantee you, do not skimp on the processor and the memory. The storage on this is not so much an issue, but the processor and the memory is big. Now, what I need to talk about is a couple of things about how Ableton works. Ableton uses a lot of CPU, and it also uses a lot of RAM or memory when you've got samples in it. So it uses both. If you've got a Surface that's a Core i7 and it's got at least 16 gig of RAM, this thing is going to be relatively flawless. It's going to be like a desktop. You will not have a problem. The models that had the Core i7 and the 16 gig of RAM, they all had either 256 or 512 gig SSD or M.2 drives inside them. So that is insanely heaps. That's all you need. This doesn't need to be your go-to storage device. You can plug a USB drive into it and chuck all your projects off and just have the one that you're working on here. Keep it clean, right? You don't need to fill this up full of samples. You can use a USB thumb drive of samples, plug it into the USB port here. That is all you need. This is a Core i5 and it's only got 8 gig of RAM. Now there's one other cool thing the new Surfaces have got. The higher models, the more expensive ones, have got like a separate graphics card. This one and the lower models of the current versions are using the Intel built-in graphics card, and that means that it's sharing the CPU to display graphics as well as to do all the crunching of numbers and just, you know, software applications. Now, one thing I noticed that this was struggling with when you're playing this, right, and there's nothing playing, you can see that the CPU load is negligible, right? And playing clips is really not an issue. It's negligible, right? Unless you're using plugins, and in which case some of these tracks I've got plugins. Okay, let's try this one. Now, where I found it glitching was when I started moving the GUI around like this, right? So when I really pushed it and I had lots of plugins running. Now on here, I've got the iLok running, and I think some of these actually have like the Eventide black hole. I've got to try and find it. So this has got Eventide stereo room on it, and this has got Gator. So what does it sound like when we run this? It's not using hardly any CPU, so those are pretty good. Oh, there it is there. Okay, so there's the black hole plug-in. Okay, and that is on the strike fet. So let's listen to that running. That's flawless. There's no glitches or pops or clicks on that at all that I could hear. And I've got my got these headphones on. These are reasonable. The K240s by AKG. They're not the ones I always use. When I'm actually doing my recording, I use a set of Audio Technica's M50s, I think. So yeah, running some plugins on this, it's been fine. But like I was saying, if you go with the newer, if you've got the money and you want to buy a new Surface, they've got bigger screens. They've got 15-inch screens on them. Go with the Core i7, go with the 16 gig, or go. I think there's even a model that's got 32 gig of RAM on it, and yeah, you know, you're not going to have an issue at all with that. Let's keep this as an open discussion. I think as a work in progress, right now as it stands, I'm actually happy. I think this is fine. I'm actually happy with this. I'm happy with the amount of storage it's on here. I think Ableton runs, I won't say brilliantly, but I think it runs okay for the use of this. Now, what I would love to do is I would love to test this out in a live jam. Actually put myself out there in public and test it out in a live jam and just see if it stands up, if it crashes. We need to know what these things are like. Do they stand up? Because when you're comparing things like, you know, this setup, if you're comparing it to, say, the new Akai Force, that thing probably won't crash, you know. Not that I've heard of anyway. It's only been out in the market a few months, but will this stand up out there? How long will the battery last? Well, they're claiming the new Surfaces, the batteries last for around 13 hours. Now, that would probably be, as a guess, that would be sitting idle doing nothing, but running something like this and, you know, pushing drivers through audio, I'm sure this would chew up the battery. So, you know, if you're gonna go somewhere to a gig and you've got access to power sources, just plug them in. What's the big deal? If you want to use this on a train or a bus or a plane and you're traveling, 4 or 5 hours is plenty, and this will probably last at least 9 hours, I reckon. So the older the batteries on these, they do get shorter in how long they last for. But yeah, I mean, look, I can write a whole project in Ableton here, and if I store the samples on a thumb drive or even internal on the drive here, I can listen to the whole thing. It's got its own internal sound card as well. It's got an, you know, you can just plug headphone plug. It's up top left hand corner here. So you don't need to lug that with you. You just bring that Surface by itself and chuck it on a plane and write music. Or you could edit, or you could master with headphones. You couldn't master properly, but you could master with headphones. You could get a mix and the EQ reasonably close with headphones. You know, you could get all your levels right on here. There's really nothing stopping you from doing half of this stuff. One thing though I'll say is that when you've got your desktop Ableton set up, you've probably got all your packages and everything all installed, and there's gigabytes and gigabytes and gigabytes worth of stuff that you've downloaded over the years. This shouldn't have it in there. But if you're gonna do a project and it's gonna use some of those internal packages, when you save that project, here's a little tip for you. Make sure you go File, Collect All and Save. See that option there? Collect All and Save. When it does that, it puts all the samples that it's using in those packages in the same project folder. And then you can zip that up, copy it onto your Surface from your desktop, and then you won't have to worry about those packages being there. Now, I think there's going to be a few issues with some of the things that are out there, because the way they might use Max for Live and all that sort of stuff, you might have to install more software on here. But what you do have to install is all of your plugins as VSTs. Now at the moment I've only just got a couple on here, and on my desktop I've got hundreds of VSTs. I've got Complete, NI Complete, Ultimate, I've got Machine 2, I've got heaps of Arturia stuff, heaps of Roland Cloud stuff. It's chock-a-block full of stuff, and I don't know if I want to have all of that on here, because it doesn't need to be an exact replica of what you've got on your desktop. It only needs to be able to handle what the current project is that you're doing. And for me, I'm more of a hardware guy. I'm not really a software person. I'm not a huge fan of VSTs as much. I do like them. I'm just not a huge fan. I prefer to use hardware. What I would be doing more so is using this as a sampler and recording device, multi-tracking and that sort of stuff. And I think this works fine for that. In fact, that actually doesn't use the CPU as much as the VSTs do. There's a benefit to you. Anyway, this is kind of a work in progress, as I said before. Let's have a discussion about it. Leave the comments below what you want to know, what you've experienced when you've used your Surface with Ableton. Tell me about your setup and how you've got it configured. Tell me if I've done something wrong in this video and there's things that I should know. And also, let's plan on doing another video. Maybe we can go into some more details of some of the stuff. Anyway, that's it for now. It's getting pretty long, and let's see you in the next video. Cheers.